Hello and welcome back to #Becomer series. I am Dr. Kim Brown Barber, better known as Dr. Kim. And we are so excited because we are here to highlight you. We're here to highlight your stories because you're fabulous. And we're here to be able to not only highlight you, but to encourage someone else on their journey to becoming. We are here to be able to give you information and enlightenment and support on your journey to becoming who you were meant to be. And we are so excited today because we always find fabulous people. And this is a platform that we have for women. And then we have another platform that we have for college students. And we always look for the ones who are the unsung heroes. You know about the show, The Unsung Heroes? Well, guess what? They have nothing on us because we are finding the ones in the needles in the haystacks that are actually vibrant and they are eagles soaring and you have no idea about them, but we're here to bring them to you so they can encourage you and we can be able to support them and encourage them as well. So we have today with us none other than Tenisha Patterson Brown, Esquire, and she is the CEO and the founder of Definitive Sports Group, among other things. But I'm not going to give all that away. I'm going to let her talk to you about that later on in the interview. So, Tanisha, welcome to #Become a
Thank
Stories.
you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. And it's an honor to be here with you today.
Thank you. So, why don't you do us a favor? Kind of introduce yourself with your name and title, city, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am Tenisha Patterson Brown. I am married to my college sweetheart, Everett Brown.
Aww.
I say just, but my daughter just turned 1 year old, so I can't say that anymore. I had my
Oh,
beautiful baby girl, Banks
aw.
Brown, after a
Beautiful.
5 year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. After a 5 year journey to motherhood. And that is one of my ministries that I'll talk about a little bit
Mm,
later on my
yes.
journey through infertility. I'm also an attorney by trade. My business is a sports business. I deal with primarily with athletes. It's a business and legal consulting company, primarily focused on helping athletes off the field along with their spouses as well. I'm a franchisee for the brand Tropical Smoothie, along with my husband. I've owned several businesses, and I'm a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist.
Yes, you are. I love it. I love it. She's a serial entrepreneur. There, I hear that is going to be something that we're going to be sticking to and talking about because you really are, and we want to be able to dig a little further into that serial
Mhm.
entrepreneurship that you talk about.
Okay.
And so I love it. Now I have to have a side note here because I didn't know about this, even though we usually don't ask about husbands and family members. But did you say that your husband's name was Edward Brown?
Everett. Everett.
Everett? Everett. Okay, okay.
Everett. Yeah.
Because my maiden name is Brown, as you know, Dr. Kim Brown Barber. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, we'll have to talk after this and see whether we're related or not, because there's a lot of Browns
Maybe.
on that side.
It's a lot of
There's,
brown.
yeah, and there's like a Edward Brown, Edwin Brown. So when I heard that, I thought I heard that it was
Well, if
Edward,
you're
but it's
from
Everett.
Eastern North Carolina, then there's a possibility.
Well, we need to talk. That's a side note, everybody. Okay, so you just never know what's going to happen on
You
Become a
never
Series
know.
Stories. You never know. So you talk about this group, Definitive Sports Group. What is that
Hmm.
exactly? Can you explain a
Well,
little bit about that?
Definitive Sports Group started when I graduated from grad school in 2009. I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to be an agent, but I
Mm,
wanted to help athletes. I have previously worked in football recruiting and basketball recruiting, and my heart really reached out to the young athletes who their parents were leaving them and trusting coaches and the staff to take
mm-hmm,
care of them.
mm-hmm,
And so they knew how to be athletes.
mm-hmm,
They didn't know how to be human beings off the
mm,
field.
mm,
So the basic fundamentals of, getting an apartment, they're knowing about their credit, establishing businesses, understanding those fundamentals really was a trigger for me doing definitive sports. And ironically, my husband, at the time we were dating, and he said, you know, he was going off to the draft and he's like, I need you to get your credentials before I can hire you. And I was so
Mm.
mad. I was like, credentials? I have my master's and my
Wow.
bachelor's. And he's like, no, what makes you different? Because he was getting approached from here and there from agents.
Right.
And he's like, well, what makes you different and why should I hire you? And I thought about it and
Wow.
I said, you know, what would make me different? It's hard being a woman in sports. Literally, you have to
Sure.
work twice as hard as any man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I took it upon myself to say, you know what? I'm going to take all of this feeling because, yeah, that's nice, warm and fuzzy, but I need to have some knowledge base behind it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
decided to go to law school, went to law school, did an
Mm.
internship with the Bobcats, now Hornets, again. And I really just felt like Definitive Sports was my baby. My husband was my first client. And for a while,
Wow.
when you're an NFL wife, you are kind of sitting back and letting your husband be the primary and do their thing because NFL is not for long. But then I said, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? I'm going to just take this step and really push forward with Definitive Sports. And ever since I made a decision, I literally have my clients doing very well. And then I added the spouses, and then I focus with women entrepreneurs who have some connection to
Mm-hmm.
athletes, which I love that aspect as well. So that's Definitive Sports. We do a lot off the field, counseling, uh, life coaching, just brand awareness. And I love what I do. It's my passion, and I
Mm-hmm.
find so much joy in it.
Well, you can definitely tell that you are finding a lot of joy in what you're doing just by even how you got into the business. I mean, it's interesting, right? Like
Hmm.
your own at the time boyfriend was going into sports in a more professional way, right? And
Hmm.
he's like, okay, yeah, so I need to be able to hire you, but I need you to get your credentials, right? So he really
Yeah.
challenged you to step
And I
up.
was offended. And I was like, what are you doing? What do you mean? I have
Oh my
credentials.
goodness.
And honestly, I think about it and it was just, it allowed me to critically think about what
Yes.
made me different from everybody else
Mm,
that was trying to
mm.
get athletes to, you know, hire
I
them
love it.
and pay them.
I love it. I absolutely love it because that's the thing though, Tanisha. Sometimes we get challenged, right? Whether it be from a
Hmm.
family member, a friend, or even sometimes a competitor, right? Or enemy.
Hmm.
We get challenged and then we kind of get offended. That's the human factor, right? We like,
Hmm.
what do you mean you're asking me this? And then all of a sudden we start thinking that it's a part of the journey to be able to
Yeah.
cultivate that excellence in us, to, like you said, critically think, because it's easy to know for ourselves, but how does someone else know about us and what we're doing and
Hmm.
our passion, right? And the passion has to have something behind it to make it sustainable. And I really appreciate that. And I really applaud your husband, who was then your boyfriend at the time. I really applaud him for having enough trust in your relationship to say that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because really and truly, that could have been a very sticky situation where he's like, because of the dynamics, I
Oh,
won't
yeah.
say anything, right? So I really
Hmm.
applaud him as well, being that supportive and having that much trust in your relationship. And so this business has, you kind of talked about it a little bit already. How does
Hmm.
it, how is Definitive Sports Group different from any other agent in recruiting business? I mean,
Well,
you talked a little bit about it, but can you dig a little bit further for me?
Well, we're different because we're not an agency. I am not a sports
Okay.
agent. I don't want to be a sports agent. I made that
Okay.
decision when I was in law school. I thought about it. I'm like, I want to have a family. I don't want
Mm,
athletes calling me at 3 o'clock in the morning because
mm,
they're stuck in the club. And you
mm,
know, those aspects for me, it was important. I wanted to have a life balance and
mm-hmm,
I wanted to add more value. And I didn't want to just say, you know what, I'm going to be an agent and only care about you when you're
mm-hmm,
playing. I
mm-hmm,
want to
mm-hmm.
be, someone that's going to be sustainable in your life that helps you post career because reality is
That's
your
it.
career is only going to be very short. There are
That's
very,
it.
very few um, athletes that play for 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is super rare. So if your
Mm-hmm.
career is 5 years, I mean, the average person is working significantly longer than that. So
Mm-hmm.
and just really teaching them how to invest. I care. So I have one thing that I discovered when I was recruiting was the players always liked me because they treated me like a sister. The moms loved me.
Mm.
And I said, well, I'm going to just take this energy and know and be trusted by the players,
Mm-hmm.
understanding education is more important. I don't just do things for them. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work for me. It is a
Mm-hmm.
process. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
understand why we are doing this. I'm going to thoroughly explain because I want you to know. I dare not have my clients go in a room and I have to speak for them because they don't understand concepts.
Mm.
That is something that bothers me. And it's not just in sports, but it's also with attorneys as well. Attorneys want to speak for their client. Their clients have no clue what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that you're doing your client a disservice because you're
Yes.
not educating them because your fear of
Mm-hmm.
not being needed
Mm-hmm.
anymore. If you teach them
Mm-hmm.
too much, then they won't need you. But
Mm-hmm.
see, for me, I don't operate out of fear. I
Mm-hmm. I
operate
love
out of
it.
faith.
I love it.
And so when I am with my clients, I want my clients to be as smart as me. I want them to
Mm-hmm.
know what I know. And by the time I finish consulting them, they are so much of experts that essentially people are seeking them for advice. And I'm okay with that because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want a enormous amount of clients. I literally am a
Mm-hmm.
boutique firm and I'm totally fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm totally
I
okay.
love it. See, and that's and you show confidence and you know who you are. And so you touched upon a couple of things. But before we go into, because I'm going to ask you some more things about your journey into that
Mm-hmm.
confidence, right? And some of the things that you have experienced being a minority woman in business. But you own more than just this business. You kind of teased us a little bit and told us
Mm-hmm.
about another one that's a franchise, but what other businesses do you own?
So and this is one thing I do want to address because I think sometimes people feel like if you go into a business, you need to stay in that business and not have an
Mm-hmm.
exit strategy. And
Mm-hmm.
so my husband and I purchased a franchise of Tropical Smoothie actually before we were married, which, that was
Mm-hmm.
risky. But
Right. but
as an
it paid
attorney,
off.
wild enough. But we have that, and then we started a luxury car rental business, and people, we did that for 5 years, and then the
Mm-hmm.
season was over. It was
Mm.
time, the market shifted. It was right,
Mm-hmm.
literally a
Mm-hmm.
year before COVID happened, and we said,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, we don't have time for this. My
Mm-hmm.
husband was coaching, I was working a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
we said, what is our exit strategy at this point? How do we get out of this? That's something that we did, but we can always circle back. But I think a lot of times people think that your business, like you're failing because you're
Mm.
not reaching back out. And one thing,
Mm.
I watched this documentary of Chip and Joanna Gaines,
Mm-hmm.
and I like their couple dynamic. And so I watched them, and she said when she had her fourth child,
Mm-hmm.
they had to step away from their business. And she
Mm-hmm.
cried and cried. They had to close because she didn't have time. She just didn't have time for it. And she said, oh my gosh, she cried. And she said
Mm-hmm.
she prayed and she said, God, if it's meant to be, can you bring me back to this? This is
Mm.
before their HGTV, before all of this. And then God circled back and brought him back. So I said to my husband, and it just so
Wow.
happened in that season when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with the business, we were stressed out. We
Mm-hmm.
couldn't find people to work. We were
Mm-hmm.
dealing with staffing issues before COVID. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it was in that season where I realized as an entrepreneur, it's so important to understand when you need to take a break from a business, pause,
Mm-hmm.
walk away, start over. It is okay
Mm-hmm.
to do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't negate what you
Mm-hmm.
did and
Mm-hmm.
what you learned during that
Mm.
process.
Mm. Mm.
And it's a
Ooh.
season for everything. And then I
Ooh,
started
yes,
another
yes.
company when I was struggling with my, infertility. And I shouldn't say struggling, I
Mm-hmm.
was powering through.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was a treasure box company. And I literally was taking my pain and making these custom treasure boxes for children as my friends were having kids.
Mm,
And then people started to want them and buy them. And so I said, well, let me
mm-hmm,
just turn it into a business. And it helped me
mm-hmm,
heal and
mm.
also leave my mark. And so even to this day, I have 10-year-olds and, 12-year-olds and kids with the boxes, and I appreciate, the journey. So when
So
I
now
see them,
what's
I'm
in
like,
these
oh my
treasure
gosh.
boxes?
Well, they're just custom treasure boxes and you can put anything in them. So I encourage the parents to put either their greatest treasures. Like I leave a little note for the kids and I say, this is for your greatest treasures. And so they can put anything in the treasure
Oh
boxes. So
my
their
goodness.
names, their custom colors, usually they match their nurseries.
That
But
is
I
awesome.
struggled, with bait because I couldn't have a child. And so I said,
Mm-hmm,
you know what, when people have a child, I'm going to
mm-hmm.
bless them with this treasure box. And so that's what I did.
Wow. You poured into others.
Hmm.
Even though at that point in time that was your pain, you powered
Yeah.
through by pouring into others who were being able to be blessed in that way. And I love that. I absolutely love that. Um, how you did that. And it says so much. And I also really admire and appreciate you bringing out about businesses and seasons and
Hmm.
understanding that even though you stop a business or may come back to it and circle back or may not, that it's not failure, but
Hmm.
that's what, but it doesn't negate. I like how you said it doesn't negate from what you have learned and given, right?
Hmm.
Because even during that time period, whether it was 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, you gave something out,
Hmm.
in that business, because if it's your passion, you're giving something out every time that you're making a sale,
Hmm.
if you will. And when I say sale, I say that very lightly because it's your purpose,
Hmm.
that is pouring out each time that you have your transactions, and you have become more like more of a transformational leader
Hmm.
as things are moving forward. And I really love how you have allowed the traditional phenomenon of having to be in your business for 45 years to be successful, right?
Well,
And
I will
you
say
have this,
that's not
you have
realistic.
right, I was going to say, but you have smashed that,
Hmm.
because that's, literally, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times when we come into things, we think that, okay, it's not successful unless it's a business I've been running for 30 years and I'm able to pass it on to my kids, and it's a legacy. They're
Hmm.
thinking in terms of that's the traditional mindset. And I love that
Hmm.
you have challenged that mindset and put into the atmosphere and into this conversation that's not success. Success
Hmm.
looks different for everybody, and that it's a season when it comes to your businesses, and
Hmm.
knowing that you have given what you were supposed to have given and learned what you were supposed to have learned during that season. And if it's supposed
Hmm.
to come back, like you said, Chip and Joanna Gaines, then it'll come back. And if not, then you go on to the next thing.
And
So
I
I
think a lot
love
of
that.
times people don't understand that some businesses, most businesses, you need an exit strategy because
Yeah.
the reality of there are very few that have continuation as a legacy
Mm-hmm.
per se.
Mm-hmm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times people have that concept when they need to understand that every billionaire does not own
Mm-hmm.
their business consistently. I would say even Bill Gates sold out a portion of his business in order to grow and progress. So it
Mm-hmm.
has to be,
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs sold Apple, at
Mm-hmm.
one point.
Mm-hmm.
And he circled back around. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of times people have this thought process where I think it's more of a social media thing because they feel like they
Mm-hmm.
have to do it for the gram. If you post it on Instagram
Mm-hmm.
or you post it on your social media that you're doing this and people ask,
Mm-hmm.
well, what happened to this?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of
Mm-hmm.
being upfront and honest about it. And I've been guilty of that as well. So I won't sit here
Mm-hmm.
and just say that everybody
Mm-hmm.
else. But I think, people who never had a business before don't understand how to be an entrepreneur. It is a different
Sure.
level of mindset that you
Yes,
have
it
to be
is.
on in order to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And so you have to understand your time management. And I always
Mm-hmm.
tell my clients that you have to understand the value of your time. What is your
Exactly.
hourly rate? Everybody has an
Mm-hmm.
hourly rate. What
That's
is that?
right. That's
Whether
right.
you're taking away from your kid, whether you're taking away
Mm-hmm.
from your husband,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
self-care. What are
Mm-hmm.
you charging people, including your friends? Because I don't do
That's
that. I
right.
don't do that. You know, when people, you know, you don't ask, you should never
Excuse
ask
me.
people for discounts,
Mm-hmm.
because you should pay me just like you pay Target.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and so in my mind, it's just understanding the concept and teaching people the concept of what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to
I
be
love it.
easy, but it's worth it to me, you know.
Yes. 100%. And so I know with that, you've done a lot even in taking your expertise and putting it in a book, 100 Ways to Stay Married. Talk to me about that.
So I have an amazing group of friends. Obviously, you've met Janae Lowry. So um, my friends are bosses in their own right. And so I'm a woman of just like self. Everybody needs to come with me. Like, I'm not going to be on the yacht by myself. We're going to all have a yacht together and we're going to be riding next to each other. Like, that's my thought process.
I
And
love it.
so I have a group of ladies who, one of them is my pro-fight, one is my cousin, and then the other one, I met her. She's my federal alumni of Florida State University. And I said, you know what? We are all boss women. We are all alpha women. We're doing our own thing, and yet we are still maintaining these healthy marriages. And it's always this narrative of women who are alpha females can't possibly be married. You
Mm-hmm.
can't
Mm-hmm.
possibly have a husband that is strong
Mm-hmm.
as just as
Mm-hmm.
strong as you. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that was a trigger for me was this video clip of the CEO of Sean Combs' business. And she was
Mm-hmm.
talking about how she could not find anybody to be with her. And it was so hard to date because she's so powerful. And I'm just like, wait, I just feel like that narrative, I'm tired of that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
specifically with Black women in general. And I said, you know what? No, we're going to take this away and we're going to just start this success and submission series. And so the first book in that series is 100 Ways to Stay Married. And so it's just simple things you can do on a day-to-day basis to try to keep that spark alive and keep your relationship going. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Understanding what submission really means, because a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
think submission is letting your husband tell you what to do. No, that
Mm-hmm.
is allowing your husband to
Mm-hmm.
lead. It's the difference.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Um,
Makes a
and
difference.
it makes a huge difference. And I think once you change your mentality, then you understand that. And then therefore the birth of 100 Ways to Stay Married.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm speechless, and that's not good for the host of the show to be speechless. But that is a mouthful, and it is so much wisdom, and I love it because you continue to challenge the traditional mindsets. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
You challenged it in the business and you challenge it in the marriage, right? And I love it
Mm-hmm.
because you're right. But see, this is why I do what I do with Journey to Becoming is highlighting people that they're not even being talked about, but they are like you said, they are bosses in their own rights, right? They are showing up every day in a fabulous way and they are giving in such a unique way that people don't know, and that
Mm-hmm.
also for people to understand there's a journey, that part the biggest part of your becoming is in the journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all are becoming always constantly, just like the different pieces of our legacy that we're building every day. You're building your
Mm-hmm.
legacy every day, and so I love it but it's all in the journey, because we're learning, we're developing, we're everything is happening. And I love how you even look at that even in a marriage, and saying that just because we're doing that, just because all this is happening doesn't mean that the marriage can't work. So I
Mm-hmm.
really applaud you for doing that, especially in this day and time, because that's not what we call popular, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
love that you are challenging the mindsets of the popular or traditional pieces when it comes to marriage, and people who have alpha type of
Mm-hmm.
personality. So I love that. So it has to be challenges that you face as a minority woman in business. What are some of those challenges?
Well, the first one in sports is there's always an assumption, and time has changed. So I've been in the
Mm-hmm.
game 10 years, over 10
Okay.
years. And so times have changed a bit. A lot more women are in sports now
Mm-hmm.
doing the non-traditional roles. But when I got into it, it was literally you're only trying to be here because you're trying to find a husband, or you
Wow.
are not smart enough to be in it. You don't have the credentials. You don't understand football specifically, because no way I could possibly understand football. It was so complicated.
Right, because you're a woman.
Because I'm a woman. And so and people telling that you couldn't do it. It was, well, why are you trying to do this? It's never been done before. Therefore, you shouldn't try to do this. And so I had to really just get a thick skin, because there's no way, at the time, fighting, you have to pick your battles and understand, is this person really important enough for me to engage, for me to educate them, right? And so I think why waste my energy on someone who is not relevant, when I can take the time to say, you know what, let me save this energy, let me save my space, let me save the image that could potentially be where I'm an angry Black woman, right? Because what is my purpose?
Right.
I am here to gain clients. I am here to get experience, to connect, to network. I am not here to be friends with everybody or to appease some random person that feels like I shouldn't be in the room. And so even to this day, I'm constantly proving myself, but I'm okay with that, because I understand that I have the credentials, I have the expertise, I have the confidence, I know my worth, and that's the most important thing. And understanding that my value is not in what I look like, it is in what I have within. And so I would say just my biggest challenges have been in sports, but those same challenges, and I will say this, and most women who are in the legal field will tell you, it is in the law and the legal field. And older men specifically will come for you so hard. And especially when, like me, I'm doing negotiations and contract negotiations, and they come for you. It is like an assumption that you don't know anything, or that they know more than you because they've been practicing for 40 years. And so it's just, you have to just understand, it's when it's a time and a place. You know how your grandma used to always say, it's a time and a place for everything, right?
Exactly.
Grandmothers have an amazing amount of wisdom that literally, those triggers come back. And that time and that place is understanding when I just need to let things slide, I should say, and because God will reveal them himself, so I just have to work through you're not good enough, because I know that I am. I don't need to prove to anybody that I am.
Yes, I think that's so important. I think that's the biggest part for all of us, right? Is really being able to know within ourselves we're good enough, and to understand that we don't have to prove it to anyone, and like you said, it's a time and place in when you need to say something and when you don't need to say anything, but to understand overall, you don't have to prove it yourself to anyone. You have to know who you are, and that takes time, right? And it takes girth, constantly being able to practice that and say the affirmations to yourself, so that you know who you are. And having a great support system doesn't hurt, right?
No.
So I love that, and I think it's important, and that's one of the things that we constantly try to do, even with hashtag Becoming Stories and with Journey to Becoming, is constantly supporting, encouraging all those women who are out there who want to continue on their journey to becoming, so that they know that they have somebody on their side, that they don't have to prove, they don't have to try to put on any type of airs, but that they know that they really have someone supporting who they are. So what are some of your main mantras? I know getting to where you are, you have to have some mantras that have helped to get you there.
Well, I love, my main one is the scripture, as iron sharpens iron, because I feel like you surround yourself with people who you want to be like, and people who you admire. Every single one of my friends, I admire them. I am constantly hyping them up, constantly building them up, and letting them know how great they are, because I can't, for me, and my thought process is, I would not surround myself with someone that is not equal to me or greater. And I say that not in the sense of success and money and all that, as
Sure.
in just energy. I'm about
Exactly.
energy.
Exactly.
And then I operate faith over fear. I constantly tell myself that faith over fear. Anytime I question or judge myself or make, myself feel as if I'm not good enough, because that happens, it creeps up,
Of course.
into you. And I'm always like, you know
That's
what,
right.
this is my assignment. God would not put it in front of me if it wasn't meant for me.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
I always pray first, always.
Mm-hmm.
And I ask
Mm-hmm.
God, is what's supposed to happen? I err always on positivity. Positive vibes only is my
Mm-hmm.
is my
Mm-hmm.
daily
I
mantra.
agree. I agree.
I have no time for negative energy
That's
and
it.
foolery.
That's it.
Like, you
That's
can miss
it.
me with that. I have no desire. And then I'm really not into just kind of giving people my time if they don't
Mm-hmm.
value my time. So
Mm-hmm.
I have
Mm-hmm.
to really just calculate, is this worth it for me?
Mm-hmm.
And not being afraid to say no. That is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something I had to learn as in my 30s, like really just being okay with saying, no, I cannot do that today, and being fine
Mm-hmm.
and be totally
Mm-hmm.
fine with that. And self-care is the best care. And I know that sounds
Yes,
super cliche, but it is
but
so
it's real.
important.
It's so real.
It is so real.
It is definitely vital. It is vital to your journey. No matter
Hmm.
what your journey is, it's vital to it. And so I think that's real important. So now, what would you consider to be your hashtag become a story? You have many stories in your life that have, you know, been a part of getting you to this
Wow.
place of your becoming. What would be your hashtag become a story?
I would say probably faith over fear.
Okay. Okay.
Every single thing in my life, from school, I was a first generation college student. My
Okay.
grandmother went to fifth grade, and her dad made her quit to, help take care of
Mm-hmm.
her
Mm-hmm.
siblings. And I remember when I was in kindergarten, and she told me, she said, if you don't have anything else, as long as you have your education, you can do anything you want to do in life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I took that, and
Mm-hmm.
I took the fact that my grandmother only went to fifth grade, and I said, you know what? She crawled so I can walk and sprint
That's
and run
it.
and win
That's
the race.
it.
And so I took that and I literally just ran with it. And so that was faith, because my
Mm-hmm.
parents, didn't have money to send me to college. But I said, you know what? I'm going to go into this advanced program in high school, and I'm going to get
Mm-hmm.
all these scholarships, and I'm going to go to school for free. And then I'm going to go ahead and go get my master's. And then I'm going to figure out how I'm going to get to law school, because Lord knows I did not have the money and or credit
Mm-hmm.
to do that, because I
Mm-hmm.
had no
Mm-hmm.
knowledge base of what
Mm-hmm.
credit was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do that. I
Mm-hmm.
had,
Mm-hmm.
so even in my personal relationship, stepping out on faith with my husband, stepping out on faith on my journey to becoming a mother. I suffered several losses throughout
Yes.
that time period, and just disappointments and pain. But I said, you know what? Faith is over this. I will not
Mm-hmm.
stop what I'm doing because I'm
Mm.
afraid.
That's good.
And in my business, stepping out on faith every single day as I talk to my clients, understanding that even if you don't like what I say, everything I say is from the heart and genuine. And so, it'll circle back around. I always believe it'll come back around. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's my hashtag.
All right. You heard it. That's our hashtag. That's what we're claiming right here on this show, right? That Tanisha Patterson Brown Esquire made that her hashtag. We may even ask them to put that in there, right? What would you tell other women? Okay, you said a lot that the women are definitely gleaning from right now. But what would you tell other women about reaching for their goals and dreams?
I would say don't limit yourself for other people,
Mm-hmm.
because I think too often as women, we shrink ourselves to accommodate
Mm,
the feelings of others
mm,
and say,
mm,
well, you know what,
mm-hmm,
this may make such and such mad. So whether it's a significant other, whether it's a friend, a parent, whoever it may be,
mm-hmm,
even their
mm-hmm,
own children, you shrink yourself
mm,
to fit into the molds of other people
mm-hmm,
instead of being great. One
mm-hmm,
of the the one person I look up to so much is Oprah, because she came from so little, went through so much
Mm-hmm.
to be who she is. And her
Mm-hmm.
mantra is like, I'm going to do me,
Mm-hmm.
regardless
Mm-hmm.
of what you say,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what
Mm-hmm.
you feel I need to be. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be
I'm gonna
Oprah
do me,
Winfrey.
right?
Exactly.
Whether you
And
understand it or don't, agree
exactly.
with it or
Whether you
not.
tell me I'm not going to be, you might as
I
well
love
not
it.
do this because you're going to
Yes.
lose. And it's like,
Right.
you don't know. First of all, I always tell people, you don't know what's going to happen. Okay.
Right.
You think you know, but there is no absolutes. Nothing in life is
That's right.
absolute.
That's right.
Nothing is absolute, except numbers. That's it. And even then, you throw
Yes.
algebra in the mix, and it's not absolute.
Exactly. I
And
was going to say
so
it's even a phenomenon with that. With it, it doesn't become
exactly,
absolute when you throw that in,
it's
right?
not. And that's one thing you learn in law school, is that people always, you can't speak in always, never,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not real.
Mm-hmm.
It never happens like that. You
Mm-hmm.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
There's never an
Mm-hmm.
always, and there's never a never. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just, encourage women, just like operating as whatever you feel like you want to
Mm-hmm.
do it, and then follow through. See, that's the one thing that I will
Mm.
say that I notice, even when I have like people asking me to be their mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It always happens, and I say always, right? There we go, using that word.
Right. When you just said
It
don't use,
happens,
it's never always,
yes,
right?
90% of the time, right?
All right.
It's a lack of follow through. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not that I don't want to be your mentor, is that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to chase you to be your mentor. So
Mm-hmm.
it's following through. Just is, most people, especially now in 2021, they are not doing that. They're literally reaching out or
Mm-hmm.
filling out this application, and then there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's like, oh, it's too hard, or I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to follow up, or I don't want to, and it's because everything is so easily accessible. And so they
Mm-hmm.
expect it to be easy. So I would say,
Mm-hmm.
make yourself different by following through and making sure
Mm-hmm.
that you start from A and then you get to Z. You may have some
Exactly.
bumps in the middle, but it's okay as long as you
But
make
keep
it to the end.
moving. Keep
One thing
moving.
that,
Yeah.
yes, like when I follow, and see, the other thing is, choose who you follow on social media, right? I
Mm.
think one thing, I can't remember who exactly said about what was the thought process. I think it was a minister. I can't remember who exactly it was, about what you feed into yourself, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I thought about that, and I said, well, who am I following? At the time,
Mm-hmm.
I was following the shade room. No shade, but I'm just saying, those
Right.
things. And
Right.
I was following more of the gossip sites
Mm-hmm.
than
Mm-hmm.
actually people who I looked up to. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, let me clean up this Instagram, right? Let me
Mm-hmm.
clean this up
Mm-hmm.
and say, well, why do I want to follow these people? What am I learning? And
Mm-hmm.
if you notice
Mm-hmm.
on this call, on this interview, I literally have been referencing different people and those people who I follow, because I'm like, I need to know why you became who you are, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so even somebody like Rick Ross, for example, and
Mm-hmm.
he's just like, you have to understand that just because something doesn't happen in a year or 3 years, as long as you're moving towards that goal,
Mm-hmm.
it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
If it takes you 10 years, if it takes you 15 years, as long as you're making active steps towards that
Mm-hmm.
goal, it's okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes people give up. Like most women,
Mm-hmm.
that you'll give up and say, oh, it's not happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be patient, then understand that God has a specific time for
Mm-hmm.
specific things in your life. And if you
Mm-hmm.
understand that, then you operate in that space, you won't stress yourself out. You won't worry
Mm-hmm.
about where the money is going to come. You won't
Mm-hmm.
worry about how this business is going to be successful. You keep doing
Mm-hmm.
what you're supposed to be doing, and it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be all right.
Okay, so should we go ahead and drop the mic now, or do we want to wait till the end?
No, you're
that,
fine. I
that,
mean,
I
whatever
mean,
you
I
want
need
me
to
to
just
do.
drop the mic. No, I just need to drop the mic on that. If I had, this is the invisible drop in the mic, because that was a drop the mic type of scenario. Okay. Yes, yes, and yes. It's everything you just talked about. I'm a proponent for all of it. That's what we are about. And that's why this is the type of people we have on this show, right?
Mm-hmm.
That can continue to reach out and encourage our community, of women who are listening to this, or, maybe men are listening to it too. So it's all good. We're not men bashers. We love our men too. But for women who are striving to get to their
Mm-hmm.
goals and dreams, this is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you think would be your greatest resource and why at this point, that,
Um,
as you've journeyed?
I would say my village. And I think,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm an only
Mm-hmm.
child, so I am
Okay.
by nature, I want to kind of be within myself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I say, you know what, there's no way to grow that way. You need to constantly learn, and you learn
Mm-hmm.
from experiences and you learn from others. And even if it's
Mm-hmm.
something bad happened or a mishap within them, you're learning from their mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
their challenges. And so my village really keeps me focused, keeps me driven.
Mm-hmm.
They're my hype
Mm-hmm.
men, hype women. um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it.
because even when I'm feeling
That's
down on
it.
myself, they're
Mm-hmm.
always like, "No, Tanisha, you need to remember that you're a boss," and then explain to me why I'm a boss. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're right."
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
sometimes you need that.
That's exactly right.
I mean, my village is allowing my
That's
village to
your.
help me, not being
Mm-hmm.
too strong to reach
Mm-hmm.
out to my, my family and my friends, and not falling victim to the "you are so strong, you are
Mm-hmm.
so strong," because
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to be vulnerable. And so I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate um, my village, and when I say my village, I mean my mentors, my
Mm-hmm.
family, my friends,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, when you consider a mentor, I consider anybody who I learned something from
Mm-hmm.
is a
Mm-hmm.
mentor. It doesn't have to
Exactly.
be an official title. It
Mm-hmm.
is if I can call you and seek, or even not call you, if I could text you, because we're busy right now.
Exactly.
If I can text you and say, "Let me bounce this idea off of you," I
Mm-hmm.
value your opinion enough to be able to bounce that off,
Mm-hmm.
and share my dreams with. And even if you don't like it, it's okay. Alibaba, nobody liked his dreams except one person, and look at him, look at that
Yeah.
company. So
Right.
it's and Facebook, so hey, it works out like that sometimes. But
Exactly. But at least you are able to, get feedback. And
yeah.
like you said, it starts you to have critical thinking. Even when
Hmm.
you get that feedback that may not be what you want, you start to
Hmm.
critically think. You're like, okay, how would this play out? And it could actually, enhance what you were
Hmm.
already thinking about doing. So I think that's awesome.
Well, I always think that, I always blame, I say this jokingly, I blame my mom and my mom's generation,
Mm-hmm.
and the generation like right after my mom's, because that was the generation where all the kids get trophies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when the kids get trophies, and everybody gets a trophy for just for participating, right? You
Mm-hmm.
have this thought process that if someone does something, or they don't like what you did, or can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you, "Oh, you did great," then somehow, some way, you are not satisfied, and now you want to quit because if somebody
Mm-hmm.
tells
Mm-hmm.
you that you are not, you can't take criticism. And
Mm-hmm.
so I
Mm-hmm.
think, I firmly believe that criticism is important, and I say positive critiques, right?
Sure.
And things to just help you be better, because if no one ever tells you, that you could fix something in this way, or maybe did you think about it in
Mm-hmm.
this alternative
Mm-hmm.
way, then you can't grow and develop, because
Exactly.
we have, our blinders on. And so
Mm-hmm.
um I just would encourage, people to just take that, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
somebody, now of course somebody who actually cares about you, not somebody that's just trying to be petty. But
Exactly.
I think if they are bounce ideas off of people, that's important. And that's why my village is important, because I bounce ideas off of them all the time. Even if they're crazy,
Mm-hmm.
I bounce them off.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I love that. You have given us so much wisdom, pearls of wisdom today. So, the community, I know that you are just grabbing these pearls of wisdom, and just being able to hold them tight, and being able to help someone else, even with what you've learned here today. We applaud and celebrate Tanisha Patterson Brown, Esquire, for all that she has done and
Thank
all she
you.
continues to do, and all she will be doing. So we applaud you as part of your
Thank
community.
you. Thank you.
Know that we applaud you. So who would you tag as next for our hashtag Become a Series story?
I will tag my law school bestie, Jessica Battle. She is a
Okay.
boss. She's killing it right now. She's not an entrepreneur, however, she is the first Black woman as the lead a counsel for the Charlotte Police Department, and
Okay.
she's killing it right now. And so she's
Excellent.
a savage in the courtroom. I always say that she's a savage in the courtroom, and I'm a boss in the
Okay.
boardroom. So that's how we work.
Okay. I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, we're always looking for those bosses, no matter what kind of position they're in, whether it's in entrepreneurship, whether it's in law, teaching, whatever. But, just showing up, being that alpha, right? And moving
Hmm.
forward. So that's awesome. Okay, so can you tell our community what's the best way to get in contact with you and to, kind of still continue to follow you and keep up with all
Okay.
that you're doing?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at tpatbrown. My business is Definitive Sports Group on Instagram. You can also connect with me on Facebook. It's Tenisha Patterson Brown Esquire. Sorry, it's long. It's a lot of Tenisha Pattersons on Facebook. Um, and you can also email me at tpbrown@definitivesportsgroup.com.
There you go. There you have it. There you have it. Thank you so much for being with us today. You have been awesome. And we have been honored to be in your presence of all that you're doing. We continue to wish you well and in all that you do. So thank you
Thank
again.
you for having me.
Next time, everybody, remember that to join us back, we are constantly moving and shaking to find those bosses, those alphas, those people like Tanisha Patterson Brown Esquire. Okay. And it could be you. So it doesn't matter who you are. If you are a woman who is on their journey to becoming, we want to celebrate you. We want to encourage you. We want to inspire you. And we want to constantly give you that support. So thank you for joining us today. And we'll see you next time. Be safe and be well. Bye-bye.